So you guys actually really liked the last art that got me through, and I figured I should probably just make this a regular thing. I'm gonna shoot for like doing at least something every month. And I think this is kind of the perfect time of the year to do something like this, where there's, you know, the Grammys are coming up, people are thinking about the Oscars, and there's a lot of people complaining about, oh, this movie sucks, this song is stupid, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's a nice time of year for some kind of positive, talking about stuff that's good and that helped me get through the weird year we've been having. So let's get started. Now, I've never been that into Lorde's music before, but especially since her new album came out, I've been listening. I ended up stumbling across the Melodrama Reimagined sessions on YouTube, and this is kind of like the textbook example of like something that's helping me get through. It's just so comforting. It's such a raw portrayal of these songs, but it's also like just really nice to listen to. So you get like that emotional connection from obviously these amazing songs of hers that everyone loves, and I don't need to really tell you that. But just these nice raw live performances that I can just put on whenever I need something comforting, and it's just a great thing to be able to listen to, and I think most people would be able to put it on and just kind of vibe. So I think that's a great one to start off this video with. Next up, I want to talk about a movie I saw recently, which was Nightmare Alley by Guillermo del Toro, and depending on when I post this, this movie might not even be out yet. I was so lucky to be able to see the world premiere of it. They were having a real one in New York, but they did it at the same time in Toronto, and then they live streamed the Q&A from the real one. It doesn't really matter, but the movie itself was great, and I've always loved Guillermo's work. There's just something very comforting about the way he tells stories. He has just so much care about the people in them. Even in this movie, it was, you know, a more dark, kind of gritty, realistic, I guess, story than he would normally do, or he's normally into like the fantasy and the kind of gothic stuff, but it still kind of had all that great charm that I love from him, and it's just great to see another movie from someone I love. But you know, any of his movies really, if you're looking for a recommendation, they're all really a great watch, because they're a great blend between, like, you know, really good movies that can sometimes have horror elements, can sometimes be thrilling or intense, but there's definitely this level of like comfort to all of it. He has this very kind of just sympathetic way that his movies portray their characters, and it just makes you kind of feel a little bit better about the world. Even when there's people doing bad stuff in his movies, there's always someone to root for, and there's always just this kind of feeling that like there's good people there. And I don't know, his style is just very comforting to me, and also just hearing him talk, he's like gotta be one of the sweetest people who makes movies, at least from the interviews he does. And also he really loves Canada. Like, a lot of his movies are shot in Toronto. He apparently has a home in Toronto, so I just gotta respect the boy for liking the city. Another thing that's really been getting me through is Stephen King's book, just called On Writing. I have never actually really read a Stephen King book as far as I can recall, but I've been kind of going back and forth between reading this and doing the audiobook, and it's just this great story of his life and also these recommendations for creative people. I mean, a lot of it is specifically talking about writing books, because that's obviously what he does, but I feel like a lot of the creative advice he gives is super applicable to anyone doing anything creative. And then also there's just something reassuring about hearing his life story and hearing about, you know, how much he actually really struggled to become a writer, way more than I expected. There's one part in the book where he's talking about how he could have seen himself just giving up and just, he was a teacher at the time. He was like, I could have just stayed a teacher and, you know, always had that dream of writing and claiming I'm working on something, but just not being content with his life and just kind of settling for something he didn't really want to do. And it's interesting because obviously I think a lot of creative people have had that thought, and it is inspiring to see someone who struggles so much, who had those thoughts, but still kept going, became like one of the biggest authors maybe ever. Obviously, that's not gonna happen to everybody. It's just a very honest story about what he does and what works for him, and I found that really comforting and helpful as a creative person. And if you're a creative person, or even if not, it's a great read/listen. The audiobook's read by him, which is also, you know, kind of nice. He's got a nice speaking voice. Next up is Halsey's album, If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. Now, I feel like I came kind of late to this album, but Halsey is one of my favorite artists, so kind of obviously I was going to enjoy it. But I feel like this album is just so cohesive, and not to be one of those people like only listen to albums in one go or whatever, but this is one that's like, it's really good to listen through all the way. One thing about a lot of music I like, and a lot of artists I like, especially with this Halsey album, is there's so many things that I feel like I've felt these feelings, but I've never really put them to words or even thought to, and then you just hear a song and you're like, oh, that thing that I've never even thought anyone else could feel that way. And I always just love that. I think that's one of the best things about art, is that weird connection you get, and it's like sometimes even hard to verbalize. It's a great album, and it's just such a good one start to finish, so it's again very good to just put on and let the whole thing run and be like, oh wow, this is amazing. And last up before we have to part is this just really beautiful movie called Drive My Car. It's a Japanese film. It's starting to get some recognition at like film festivals, and it's winning some awards, and fingers crossed it'll be up for an Oscar. Not that it should matter. Maybe you've heard of it if you're into movies, but it's just beautiful. And this is gonna be really hard to sell because it's like a 3-hour long movie in Japanese with subtitles, and I know there's certain people that like no matter what I say, that is just an immediate no from them, your loss. But it's just this beautiful movie about grief and about connecting with other people and how we can find solace in each other, and it can help us get through our issues. And it's just a beautiful human connecting movie. I don't know, like I'm just dying to watch it again. It's just another one of those things where it's just like, it just feels like someone plucked something out of your brain and put it on the screen, and you're like, oh, I didn't know other people could feel this way. And that is also like very comforting. I feel like all of these have been like pretty comforting, but that's kind of, you know, art that got me through, and this is just one I think about a lot. It is kind of a sad movie, but like a good sad, like a Phoebe Bridgers album sad. If that sounds interesting, I would highly recommend it, but I know that there's some of you that just, you know, subtitles, get over them basically, and also I guess long movies. And I don't know, it's a shame. I see a lot of people these days complain about movies like dragging or being too long or too slow, and I think it's kind of a bummer. Like obviously everyone predicted that would happen with social media and our attention spans dwindling and whatnot, but like I feel like some people just write off like really amazing, moving pieces of art that would like enrich your life, in my opinion. Like there's so many good movies and things in general that are kind of long and slow paced, and that's okay and cool and good. And just, I don't know, if you're that kind of person, then maybe you should just try reaccustoming yourself to slower paced things, because you're probably missing out. But you know, maybe you like fast-paced action movies. Who am I to judge? But I've said my piece. All right, so again, I'm gonna try and do these more regularly. The response, I know these aren't like insanely popular, but the couple people that do message and are like, oh, these are actually really good videos you do, that has definitely, you know, changed my mind on these things, because it really does kind of feel like I'm just rambling to you about things I like, but maybe we just need to talk about the things we like these days. There's so much negativity. Some of it's warranted, don't get me wrong, but especially when it comes to like people complaining about movies and stuff, it's like I don't think we need much more of that in the world. Not that I don't complain about movies. I just wanted to focus on the stuff I like, and you know, have a little escape from that other world of the internet of complaining, because it kind of bums me out. But thank you for chilling with me. Hopefully you found something cool to check out from what I listed, and I will hopefully see you very soon talking again to a camera in a room. All right,